Hey folks, David Stewart here. So, is luck real? The short answer would be yes, but that doesn't make for a very long or interesting YouTube video. So really it depends what you mean by luck. Now, this is a response to a question that was in the comment section from a video I did last week. Is talent real? So what do I mean by luck? Well, I've noticed that there are two broad definitions of luck, two big ideas that encompass the word luck when people are using the word luck. One is random events, which could benefit you or harm you. You know, if they benefit you, you're lucky. If they harm you, then you're unlucky. And the other one is divine favor or some sort of karma that is at work in your life and granting you benefits or putting upon you harms. Now, there's actually not a huge practical difference between each of these, which makes the word luck very versatile in describing both of these phenomenon, because what matters about whether it's random or it is the product of divine favor is that you can't anticipate results ahead of time. These are unpredictable events. These are events that you are not in control of, and these are events that you can't predict ahead of time. Now, if you can predict them ahead of time, then you're not necessarily talking about luck. You are doing something and then there's an outcome, right? Like if you go and you lift weights and then you get stronger, that's not luck. That's just the way things work. So we're talking about things that can't be, at least accurately in any sense, forecasted ahead of time, like winning the lottery, right? Somebody is lucky if they win the lottery. Now, is it random or did the gods bequeath fortune upon this person? Now, like I said, there's not a huge difference between these, so luck exists regardless of what perspective you want to take there. But where I think luck maybe doesn't exist is in the idea that you can somehow gain luck by doing something. In other words, and this really has more to do with the divine favor thing, there are cultures that believe that there's things you do that will give luck to you, then you will have some lucky status and beneficial things will happen to you that you can't really foresee. So like you'll find $100 on the street, or you'll be successful with your business and your marriage will be happy. So people will choose days like this is a lucky day to get married. This is a lucky color to wear at your wedding. There's lots of cultures that have this. I know people tend to think a lot of Chinese culture with this, but it's way broader than Chinese culture and is really something that goes all over the world. So the idea that you can do something and then gain a benefit from it, I don't really believe that. And from the individual's perspective who can't predict things, once we remove that, there's not a big difference between random events can happen or the gods, or there's some sort of divine favor which changes our outcomes that we are not really privy to. So if we go far back in time, you get really what might be considered an idolatrous or a pagan relationship with divine favor, which is like you give sacrifices to Zeus and he gives you some benefit. You give sacrifices to Mars and he protects you in battle. So you do something for the gods and then the gods give something to you. There's a transactional nature to it. In the Christian sense, you don't usually think of things that way. Rather, prayers are asking for something and God could choose to give it to you or could choose not to give it to you or could do it according to his own will. It's asking God to basically do his will. And that's why the Lord's Prayer has, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, rather than please do my will. And if you want to do my will, I will do something else. Now, there's examples throughout history of people praying and saying, if you save me from this storm, I'll become a monk or something like that, where there's a bargaining aspect. But usually in most Christian traditions, there's not a bargaining aspect to what you're doing. I find a very interesting one is things that are part of folk Catholicism, like the denigration of the saints. If you're not familiar with this is rather than asking a saint to pray on your behalf, you are taking, say, an effigy of a saint and doing something to it in order to threaten the saint so that they'll do something that you want. So a popular one was to bury a statue, a little statuette, an effigy basically of Saint Joseph, of Jesus' foster father. You'd bury him upside down in the ground to try to convince him that he should help your house sell or something like that, or fix your house. And then It was like a threat. It's like, I'm going to bury you upside down until my house is sold, and then I will dig you up and remove you from the discomfort of the earth, as though Joseph is somehow residing in the statue. That is actually, in my opinion, idolatrous. But it's part of some weird, folk traditions. Also interesting is the idea of superstitious acts that are intended to give luck. And really, we do tons of these. A lot of people do them. I'm not going to exclude myself from this. And people tend to do them because there's really good optionality to doing superstitious activities or superstitious acts, believing that if you do something, it will give you luck, because usually the thing that you do to get luck is really of very little consequence or very low cost, but the benefit could be immense. So if it's like, I spilled salt, I'm going to throw some over my shoulder to get rid of the evil spirits and, get rid of the bad luck. Well, salt really doesn't cost much of anything. Even when salt was expensive, a pinch of salt over the shoulder really isn't going to cost you much of anything at all, but it could potentially remove bad luck from you. So you just do it. You don't walk under a ladder. Walking under a ladder is bad luck. Well, it doesn't really cost you anything to walk around a ladder, so you just do that, and it's actually safer to walk around a ladder. If you break a mirror, it's 7 years bad luck. You hear something like that. Well, you just are cautious with mirrors. It doesn't really cost you anything to be cautious with mirrors. Same thing if you're like, I have a lucky penny, I have a lucky rabbit's foot or something like that. Like, believing an object will somehow bequeath upon you some sort of karmic favor. It's really common because it doesn't really cost you much to carry around the lucky rabbit's foot. And if it makes you lucky, well, great, you receive a benefit. And if it doesn't make you lucky, if it's just an object that does nothing, it doesn't harm you. And that's usually the decision science that would go on with most people when it comes to being lucky. If getting married on a certain day of the year is a lucky day, why not get married on that day? If there's no such thing as being able to gain luck through your actions, then there's no negative consequence. And if it is possible, then maybe you gain luck. So I think that's why a lot of our superstitious traditions get carried forward generation after generation, is because they're really of low cost. It doesn't really cost as much to do the superstitious activity. And if there's any perception of any kind of benefit at all, people do it. It's like people who play the lottery with some special set of numbers, believing that those numbers are lucky. Well, when they eventually win the lottery, they're going to believe that those numbers are lucky. Now, here's why I want to talk about luck, because I have talked about luck in the context of success. Okay, so does success require luck? Well, it depends on what area you are operating in. I'm going to borrow some terms from Nassim Taleb, which is extremistan and mediocristan. These are two different realms of, possibility where different things happen depending on what you're doing in them. So extremistan is basically winner take all, where you have a low frequency of being the winner and you get an extreme amount of reward for it. So if you think of the publishing world, and I'm in the publishing world because, I write books, and you can get this one for $2.99 and ebook for more, I think it's $7.99 for the paperback. Keys to Prolific Creativity. This is about improving your creative output, not on how to win the lottery. But, if you look at the publishing world, some large percentage of all books sold are concentrated in a tiny, tiny percentage of authors. It's not distributed evenly at all. So, and as you get closer and closer, you realize like J.K. Rowling, who writes the Harry Potter books, is responsible for some massive percentage of the book sales. And the top 5 authors sell something like 80% of all the books in a given year. And everybody else is on the lower end. And then as you go further and further, you realize there's authors that sell 100 books, authors that sell 0 books, and then authors that sell 100 million books. And there's such a wide gulf between them. You're really looking at a winner-take-all scenario. And that's also true in the music industry. The person who sells 10 million records is that 0.001% that is the winner. And the reason I want to bring this up is that if you are operating in an extreme realm, a realm of extreme winners and extreme losers, music's a great example. People will gain 0 money from their career in music. They will lose money buying equipment and not make any money gigging. And then other people will make $100 million from their music career. If you're looking at something like that, an extreme area, then luck has a lot to do with it. In fact, luck is one of the main determiners between being in sort of in the middle or being moderately successful or maybe not having any success and just being unbelievably, incredibly successful. And I want to point this out because people will understand this once they realize that the quality of a piece of art, the quality of the music, the quality of the writing, the quality of the book doesn't prevent, bad quality does not prevent extreme success, nor does good quality in any way guarantee extreme success. There's no strong relationship between quality and success or effort and success. Luck is really the main factor, randomness. If people could have predicted that Harry Potter was going to be the phenomenon it became, then they would have been publishing many more books just like it around the same time to try to maximize that return. The reality is that the Harry Potter books were a phenomenon that was not anticipated, at least not they believed that it could be successful, but no one, when they were publishing the first Harry Potter book, really believed that it would explode the way it had. If they had, they probably wouldn't have made J.K. Rowling change a bunch of things for the American edition, thinking that American readers would be completely lost on things. In fact, I think the original title of the first book was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, not Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And some editions that you buy now will say Sorcerer's Stone, but then when you're reading the actual book, it's actually the British version, but they still changed out Philosopher's Stone for Sorcerer's Stone. Anyway, weird things. They probably wouldn't have done that because it's going to be hyper successful. Why would you make a demand like that? But Rowling was on the unsuccessful side. She hadn't bridged over that. People didn't predict it. And if you think that there's a strong connection between quality and popularity, then that means that Twilight is the best book. That means that 50 Shades of Grey is the best book. That means Harry Potter is the best book. And so if you just reject that basic statement, Da Vinci Code is the best book, then you are accepting the terms that popularity and quality are completely unrelated, and popularity is the main thing that's going to determine success in the field of books or in the field of music. So think about how many 10 million selling albums there are that are awful by your qualifications, and really by the qualifications of a lot of informed music listeners. There are many highly successful albums which are, say, of mediocre to bad quality. They're successful because they had the right marketing at the right time. It was timing that they didn't know the timing ahead of time. When people say timing, they're like, you can't predict it. You didn't know ahead of time that it was going to be this explosive album that everybody was going to buy. You didn't know ahead of time it was going to be this book that everybody was going to buy, or you wouldn't have, you would have printed more copies. You wouldn't have had it sell out. So that's an important thing to point out, that if you're in the extreme realm, it matters. Now, if you're in mediocristan is realms that have an upper limit and a lower limit. So if you're a doctor, you can make a really good living. But there's an upper limit to how much money you can make as a doctor. Even if you are a very sought after brain surgeon or something, you're probably not going to be pulling in millions upon millions of dollars. You'll be successful, but not as successful as, somebody who's in the extreme realm, for instance. But at the same time, if you're a doctor and you can expect to make a minimum amount. You're not going to be, there might be doctors that are so bad they can't work, but they're probably going to have their medical license revoked due to malpractice or something like that. But if you're a doctor and you generally put in normal amounts of effort, you're going to be rewarded on the lower end of that, but it's still going to be fine. So you're not going to ever be broke. It's the same thing like with farming. Farming is in the realm of mediocristan. You can be very successful as a farmer, make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, or you can make $50,000 a year with your farm or something like that. There's a lower limit and an upper limit to what you're going to be able to accomplish in mediocristan. So this is really important, is when you are receiving advice in the creative realm, which is the extreme realm. Take it with a grain of salt, because if somebody is trying to sell you a method for how they themselves became successful, you should look at how successful they are. If they're in that extreme realm, then they're basically selling you a method for winning the lottery. And if you're like me and you don't believe that there's some sort of little magic action you could perform to win the lottery, you can't gain divine favor or game the randomness of the system, at least on this side of it without being on the other side of it, basically being a god and able to foresee the future, then that advice is really not going to be pertinent. Now, it may be valid advice for things about quality or like how to target markets, and therefore it could get you into the mediocristan realm of that. So if we're thinking about books, for instance, somebody who's very successful might have a lot of really good things to say about how you construct your book, how you write it, what kind of stories to write, what kind of stories are successful. But you could take all of their advice and do everything they say, dot all your T's, cross all your T's, dot all your I's, and then you're like, no one's buying my book, or I only made $500 or something, right? You didn't make that much money. Well, you didn't win the lottery. So I see lots of these indie authors that basically won the lottery and they don't really realize it. They think that their actions produced the results very directly, and their actions weren't irrelevant. It's not all dumb luck. Like, they still had to write a book. They still had to go through the effort of doing it. They still had to go through the effort of trying whatever business strategy they tried. And then it was successful, because what you don't see are all the people who did the same thing and they weren't successful. It could be something as simple as they chose a name for their book that ended up being really good on SEO, search engine optimization, so that people were searching for like a Star Wars thing, like Galaxy's Edge, right? People were searching for Galaxy's Edge, and instead what they get are the Galaxy's Edge books. So you get a lot of built-in traffic from that, and that's basically something that you didn't predict ahead of time. That's something you set up, and then it happened, right? So those are things that are examples of like winning the lottery. It doesn't mean that that person has no valid advice, but you should not expect to have the same success as somebody who's in that extreme realm by doing what they did, because there's going to be dozens, hundreds, thousands of other people who did the exact same thing and you don't see them. It's the same thing with bands. It's like, why is Motley Crue successful when they weren't even like the best band on the Sunset Strip? Timing, the look, they picked the look. Other bands picked a different look. Their look was the one that ended up winning. None of them predicted it correctly. I mean, you say Motley Crue predicted it ahead of time. Yeah, but the other bands were thinking along the same lines as being original and things, and they didn't win, right? Or, whatever their selection of songs were. There were bands that were just as skilled as Motley Crue, and they faded into obscurity, whereas Motley Crue gained a ridiculous amount of success. So there's so many different examples to go back from with this. So yes, luck is real and luck really matters. And take advice that you get with a grain of salt regarding whether luck is going to produce an extreme outcome. What realm are you in? If you're in the realm of mediocristan, somebody's telling you how to build a successful dentistry practice, that is going to be good advice, and it will probably lead you to build a successful dentistry practice. If somebody is telling you how to sell 1 million copies of a book, they are probably either being dishonest and selling you snake oil, or they don't realize that they are the beneficiary of luck, and you can't expect those same results even if you do the same things. Okay, so thanks so much for watching this. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Keys to Prolific Creativity, which was last year's book on your creative process. This is about finishing projects. This is not about attaining massive success, but the more projects you finish, the more times you're rolling that dice. So the more you're able to put out books, the more you are going to be able to come to the table and roll the dice and win. So that's what I view as one of the reasons that I think it's good to be highly productive, is that you can roll the dice more times. Frankly, it's the same thing with a YouTube channel, okay? So in the world of YouTube, we're in the extreme realm. So people ask me, how do I build a successful YouTube channel? As though mine is successful. Mine is more successful than others, but certainly not as successful as like PewDiePie, who has like 50 million subscribers. And it comes down to luck. Every time you make a video, you are rolling the dice. You are coming up to the table and seeing if you're going to get lucky, and you are going to get a lot of views. So when I make a video, it may get 1,000 views, 2,000 views, 3,000 views. I may make a video and suddenly it gets 100,000 views in a day, and I get a bunch of new subscribers, and then my channel grows, right? Now, did I predict that video was going to get 100,000 views ahead of time? No, I was just trying out lots of different content in my realm of what I talk about, and then I had a video that exploded, or one that got sometimes more than that, right? And then there's some that are kind of slow burners. Over time, they get hundreds of thousands of views. But it's really random. It comes down to luck. So the more content that you make, the more books that you come out with, the more you are rolling the dice, the more you're at the table, hopefully getting the benefits of luck. So you are opening yourself up to luck. If you're putting all of your hopes and dreams on one pitch of the dice, you are probably going to be disappointed, because low frequency events, you're probably not going to win. But if you have lots of things, you have lots of times to roll the dice, maybe you'll win. Maybe you'll win big, maybe you'll win little, maybe you'll win medium, right? Maybe you'll have some medium success. That's really good. So in my opinion, one of the keys to success is productivity, not because it guarantees success, but because it gives you more opportunities to be the beneficiary of luck. It gives you more opportunities to win in this algorithm game. It gives you more opportunities to find an audience that's looking just for the product that you want to get. So that is why I sell high productivity in general, and why I try to be very productive myself. So anyway, this video has gone on for 20 minutes. Hopefully it's been informative, and there's some concepts in here that you find interesting and useful. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section about luck. Do you think you can gain divine favor? Maybe your culture believes in some sort of karmic leveling or some way of gaining luck. I'd like to know about that, if that's something that's maybe from your culture. In my culture, which is more Christian, there's still tons of superstition regarding luck, tons of superstition. But people would never say, well, yeah, I leave an offering at a shrine and that spirit blesses me with luck. We're not that far in there. But if yours is like that, I'd like to know if there's anything to that, or if you think that there's anything to that, or maybe there's nothing to it, but you still do it because of the optionality. So let me know down below in the comment section, and I'll see you guys next time.